Hello everybody, this is your pal Jonah, and this is the final video in my series about Liberty University and COVID-19. So to close out the series, I just kind of wanted to go through everything that I found and everything that I learned and just tell you guys what my thoughts are on the whole thing. I kind of did this a little bit in part 2 of my series, but now I really want to go in depth and tell you guys all of my thoughts, opinions, and feelings on the whole issue. The reason I didn't do this in the series itself is because I wanted to try and remain as partial as I could when it came to this issue. I just wanted to present you guys with what I found in the information that I gathered and let you guys make your own decisions on whether or not Liberty University's decision was good and whether or not it was bad. Now that I've gotten all that information out there, I wanted to go ahead and just tell you guys whether or not I think it's good or bad. Now, the reason this video has taken so long to come out is because I wanted to kind of wait a whole week and let my first 2 parts sort of simmer and sort of marinate and then just kind of see what the response to them was. Whether or not the response was positive, whether it was negative, and if it was negative, I wanted to be able to address some of the thoughts and concerns of the people who didn't necessarily view it in the same light as a lot of other people did. So I just wanted to give time for a reaction to come out before I closed off the series and moved back to my normal type of content. The first thing I want to do is I just want to go through a list of people who I feel like I need to thank. The first people I want to thank are all of my old subscribers, everyone who's been with me since before this series. I know this series has been very different from the normal type of content that I put out, but I just want to thank you for sticking with me through all of this and being so supportive of this series. I honestly, truly appreciate it. You guys are absolutely the best. I know there's not a ton of you, but I honestly appreciate every single one of you guys. The next people I want to thank are all of my new subscribers. I did not expect me to gain so many subscribers from this. I think I've gained either almost 40 or over 40 subscribers since the start of this series, since the first trailer went out. So for all of you guys who subscribe because of this series, I honestly appreciate it. This is very different from the content I usually put out. So I really hope that you stick around when I move back to my normal type of stuff. Either way, I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate all my supporters, all the people who supported me going into this series, all the people who supported me throughout this series. I could not have done this without you guys. The response to this series has been incredibly positive and incredibly great. It's beyond anything I could ever have imagined. The trailer I went out was my first video to hit 1,000 views, which is incredible. The 2 parts of this series are the 2 most viewed videos on my channel by a very wide margin. So I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given this series. The next people I want to thank are Carrie Julian and Trey Burns, the 2 students that I interviewed. Thank you guys so much for being willing to take time out of your day to sit down with me and answer my questions. I really honestly appreciate hearing your thoughts and your concerns and your opinions on this as well. And along that, I also want to thank the 2 RAs I interviewed, Abby Vogenreiter for comments too, and the other RA who decided to remain anonymous. I really appreciate both of you guys, and thank you guys again for taking time out of your day to sit down with me and answer those questions. I honestly, again, couldn't have done this without you guys. The next people I want to thank are the 2 professors I reached out to. While neither of them were willing to sit down with me for an interview, they both have nonetheless been very vocal about their thoughts on the issue, and I really appreciate them kind of sticking their necks out like that and expressing how they feel about the situation. I think that's a very important thing to do. I really appreciate both of you, if you are watching this, for even getting back to me in the first place. It was really cool that you guys got back to me in such a timely and professional way. I'll get into one of the professors a little later because she actually gave me a statement that I'm going to read later on, but I really appreciate both of you guys. Thank you so much for the work you guys do, for what you've done in response to the school. I really appreciate that you guys have let your voices be heard. I think that's really important and really cool. Next, I want to thank my good friend Jake Davidson. While none of you guys saw him on camera, he's been helping me with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. He was the one who filmed all those B-roll shots of me walking around campus and helped me film some of the other B-roll I got. Again, couldn't have done this without you, dude. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to go onto campus with me and help me film. That was super, super helpful. And the last person I want to thank is YouTuber Savannah Hope. She actually did her own video on this whole topic over on her channel, which I'll link down in the description below. I highly recommend you check it out. It's a really well done video. And when I saw the video, I reached out to her on Instagram to ask her if I can use some of the B-roll she got. And she was kind enough to let me use some of the shots that she gathered, and that was a huge help and saved me so much time not having to go and get those shots for myself. I really appreciate her, and I highly recommend you go check her out. Again, I will leave her channel and her video down in the description below. I highly recommend you check it out. She was super helpful, super great, super nice. Definitely go show her some love. So with all the thank yous out of the way, let's get into this. So the first thing I want to do is read the statement that was given me by Dr. Karen Pryor, who I reached out to via email for an interview. While she wasn't willing to sit down with me for an interview, she did share a couple thoughts that were on the record that I think set some of the rumors straight, and I think it's important to read. So I'm just gonna read exactly what she sent me in its entirety. By the way, I asked her if I could use her name, and she said that I could. She said, "Jonah, thanks for reaching out. I'm not really interested in doing an interview, but I'll share a couple of thoughts for the record. As I explained to my department chair, there are 4 people in my household. 2 of them are parents in their 80s, and the other is a spouse with a compromised immune system. I would not have come to campus for classes or office hours given the recommendations of government and health officials. I requested permission to stay home for these reasons and received it. I have not been to campus since spring break started. I felt pretty confident that Liberty would not hold classes on campus after break by the time it was all said and done, and I'm glad that I was correct. I hope you find this helpful, Dr. Pryor." First of all, yes, I do think this is really helpful, because one of the rumors that was circulating really early on, that's kind of died out now because I think that the school has kind of set the record straight, was that all professors were required to return and hold in-person office hours. While this was true for a time, the university quickly saw the error in this and retracted that, and then made it to where everything was online, including office hours, and no professors were required to return on campus. That all happened over spring break, but I've still been seeing rumors floating around. I still had a few people ask me about it. So I think that clears it up right away that she was able to get permission to stay home. And I think it's really good that the school allowed her to do that. And then, of course, she says that she felt confident that Liberty would not hold classes. And, of course, they didn't, which I think is a good thing. And which she says she thinks that was a good thing as well, that she was glad she was correct. She didn't say what she thought about the school remaining open, but she did say that it was a good idea for classes to be online, which I think no matter who you are, whether you agree with the school staying open or not, I think we can all agree that it's definitely a good thing that all classes and everything of that nature are online. So the next thing I want to cover is some comments that I got on one of my videos. Now, normally I don't like to respond to comments in the comment section at all, just because I don't think arguing in any comment section has ever done anything positive for anybody, period. My mind's never going to be changed in the comment section. Someone else's mind's never going to be changed in the comment section. In my experience, it only causes more problems than it solves. I do think it's important to address what they said and kind of give my thoughts on it. The main problem that they took with my video is where I said that I think that the students should be given some responsibility for their own health and safety, and that not all the blame should be put on the school. And they kind of misunderstood that and thought that I was saying that the school shouldn't receive any responsibility, which is not true. No matter who they are, all leaders should be responsible for the decisions that they make and how those decisions affect the people under them. I'm not in any way saying that the school or President Falwell shouldn't be held responsible. I'm not even saying that the students should. I was just putting it out because it was an argument that came up when I was talking with some of the students and RAs, and I thought it was an interesting point, which is to say that every student here is a legal adult. They're all over the age of 18. They're old enough to vote and should therefore be old enough to take their own health and safety into their own hands. All students who came back were encouraged to stay home, highly encouraged to stay home unless they had no other option, and were also even incentivized to stay home, getting a slight refund on housing for the semester. So I think that's a very important thing to mention, that students not only came here of their own volition, they were even incentivized and highly encouraged not to come back. So I wasn't saying that the school shouldn't take responsibility for the safety of their students. I wasn't even saying that the students should take responsibility. I was just putting it out there as an argument that I think it's an interesting thought, and I think you could make an argument that some of the blame could be put on the students. Not all of it, not it should be put on the students. I just was putting that out as an argument, as kind of a counterpoint. I was trying to give both sides of thinking in the videos. So I wanted to make that clear. I do think that the leaders should be held responsible for anything that happens. And that's the other thing I also wanted to mention too. The thing is, nothing bad's happened yet, at least as of the recording of this video. Everyone's kind of jumping down Liberty's throats of, how could you do this? How could you do this to your students? when nothing's really happened yet. Now, that's not to say nothing will happen, but as of right now, it's all just conjecture. It's all just guessing. And I think it's a little unfair to the school to kind of attack them for something that could happen, but hasn't yet. I think it's valid to criticize them, but the school's been getting so much hate and vitriol from the media and from people outside the school for stuff that hasn't happened and has a chance of never happening. I think that's an important point to bring up. And the other point I want to bring up too is Liberty's not the only school in the country to stay open. It's not even the only school in the state to stay open. UCLA in Los Angeles stayed open. Virginia Tech, about an hour and a half away from here, stayed open. And both of those schools had significantly more students come back to school than Liberty. And both of those schools have had significantly more confirmed COVID cases than Liberty. So I think it's a little unfair that Liberty's been being judged way more harshly than these other schools. Now, I have a theory as to why that is, which I'll get into later. But I do think that that's really unfair to the university that they're getting all this hate and vitriol when we're not the only school doing it. And especially with UCLA, like Los Angeles is one of the hardest hit areas in the country and has incomparably larger population than Lynchburg, Virginia. So I just think it's interesting that the school's been getting so much hate, and I'll get more into that. Which is a good segue into our next segment, which is President Jerry Falwell Jr. Now, here's the thing. I was really hoping to avoid talking about Jerry because I didn't want this video to turn into anything personal against Jerry. I wanted to talk about the school as a grander body. And I also didn't want to let my personal feelings towards Jerry Falwell to kind of bleed into my reporting. However, that said, I have gotten a lot of comments and a lot of messages from people saying that I need to talk about Jerry. It's gotten to the point where Jerry has said and done a lot of things that I feel like it would be remiss if I didn't at least address them in order to give kind of the full story and the full context of what's going on. The other reason too is just I'm so sick and tired of me personally, of other students here, of graduates here, getting so much hate and crap from people who've never even been to the school because of the stuff that Jerry Falwell says and does that most of us don't even agree with. And this has been happening long before this series. This is an ongoing thing. And I'm not going to get into a whole rant of every single time this has happened. But it's happened enough to where I'm honestly sick of it. I feel like I need to address Jerry and kind of set the record straight. And then finally, another reason I want to do this is because I think that Jerry Falwell Jr. is a big reason that the school is getting attacked significantly more harshly than the other schools. And I'll get onto that in a second. So the first thing I want to say is that the school, the way the school's run, and especially the student body, are not a reflection of Jerry Falwell Jr. Jerry Falwell Jr. is not a good reflection of what the school is actually like, what the students are actually like, and what the school and the students actually believe and do. So what I always tell people is you kind of need to separate the way that Jerry behaves and the things that he says from how the school is behaving and what the school is doing. I like to think of it as a smaller version of America, whereas America is not necessarily a reflection of President Trump. Just because people live in America does not mean they agree with President Trump or agree with everything that President Trump says and does. Certainly there are people in America, and there are people who are on campus who believe in everything that Donald Trump and Jerry Falwell does and support all of it. But there's also a large group of people who either don't support any of it or don't support all of it. So I think it's a very important distinction to make between the students and Jerry Falwell. Now, getting into the media's coverage of this, I think that you can make a very compelling argument about media bias and how the media treats conservative and Christian organizations versus how they treat non-conservative and non-Christian organizations and people. I think you can make that argument. And I think that that has a lot to do with how liberty is being portrayed and the decisions of liberty are being portrayed in the media. However, on the flip side, one thing I've seen a lot of people say, especially a lot of students say, that I think is worth mentioning is that one of the possible reasons the school's getting so much criticism is because of how Jerry Falwell Jr. himself reacted to the virus and what he said about the virus. At the beginning, and I don't know if his views have changed because he kind of blocked me on Twitter, so we're not gonna talk about that. There's some tea there. So I don't know if his views have changed, but I do know that at the beginning, and when most of the articles criticizing Liberty came out, he was not taking the virus seriously in the slightest. I think that people see him acting and speaking as if the virus isn't serious, and then assume that Liberty is not taking the virus seriously. And this goes back to what I said about you have to separate what he does and what the school does. The school is for sure taking the virus very, very seriously, 100%. I saw some students getting yelled at by the police department for standing too close together. They are taking it very, very seriously. And they've closed off all seating areas and made it to where only one person can sit at each table. And if you try to pull tables together or put more chairs at a table, you will get in trouble. You will be told, don't do that, and to put them back. I think an argument can be made that perhaps the way Jerry Falwell talks and acts could be responsible for some of the negative reporting. Not all of it, but some of it. So now I kind of want to go through Jerry Falwell's response to the virus, some of the things he said and done, and give my thoughts on it. Starting off on something I don't disagree with him on, at least to an extent, was his appearance on Fox News the Friday before spring break started. So the whole week leading up to spring break, all these other schools were closing down, and the students were wondering, what's gonna happen to Liberty? And none of us were being told. So what Jerry Falwell did is he actually went on Fox News to announce what the school was doing before telling the students, which on the one hand I think is wrong. I think he should have told the students first before going out to the media. But on the flip side, it goes back to what Carrie Julian said when she was talking about information getting out there via Twitter and not via email. We still got the information. You know, we still heard about it. On the one hand, was it the best decision? No. But on the other hand, was it a bad decision? I don't think so. I don't have a problem with that. But what he was doing when he went on Fox News is he was definitely downplaying the virus very significantly, in my opinion. Which he's entitled to his opinion. I don't care what he believes. I couldn't care less. What he believes is what he believes. He is allowed to do that. He's entitled to his own opinion. But when your thoughts directly impact tens of thousands of people and your actions impact tens of thousands of people, I think you need to be a little more careful with what you say and what you do. Next thing he did was he did a radio interview. I forget what show it was on, but he went on a radio show a couple days into spring break, and he implied that the coronavirus was a conspiracy theory, that it was actually a Christmas present from North Korea. What? First of all, it's March. No. Second of all, we know where the virus started. It started in Wuhan, China, about as far away from North Korea as you can get. And the third thing is, he said that this breaking information came from some restaurant manager he knew. Like, what? In my opinion, that is profoundly irresponsible when you're in charge of the lives of tens of thousands of people. I think that's entirely irresponsible. And I think it's very, very bad that he did that. And that just gave more fuel to the media to attack us with. And then the next thing, this is another thing where I actually don't disagree with him. This is something where I want to set the record straight about. An article came out saying that Liberty University Police Department filed an arrest warrant for a journalist who was covering COVID-19 on campus. And a lot of people are saying, oh, they're fighting journalism. How could they do this? To that I would say, I think they're totally in the right to do that. They have signs all over campus, in the entrance of every parking lot, at all entrances to the school, saying that the school is only open to students and faculty. Nobody else is allowed on campus. If they do come on campus, it is legally considered trespassing. This is a private university and private property, and they will be prosecuted. This journalist came on campus with these signs, so of course he was prosecuted for trespassing. So that's the one thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say is, a police department cannot issue a warrant. It wasn't Liberty University Police Department who issued this warrant. The way that's worded made it sound like the school was going after this journalist for no reason. But the thing with warrants is they have to be signed by a court-sanctioned judge, meaning that a judge outside of Liberty and unrelated to Liberty had to go through the warrant and sign off on it. So a judge agreed that there was a law that was broken, and he or she had to sign off on the warrant. So I think it's really misleading to say that Liberty University filed a warrant for this guy. On the flip side, because I do want to give both sides to this, I do think it's not a good look, especially with everything that's going on, especially with how Jerry Falwell talks about the media on Twitter and in interviews. Do I think they had a right to do it? Yes, but I don't think they went about it in the best way possible, especially when we're being looked at basically under a microscope by literally everybody. Literally every media site is itching for more tea coming from Liberty. So I think it was a very bad look for Liberty, and I can see how people misconstrued it. But on the other hand, Liberty technically had the right to seek pressing charges, not because he was reporting negatively on Liberty, but because he was trespassing, which is what they were prosecuting him with. And you can do that. That's something you can do. It's private property. They can kick off anybody they want to. You don't have to agree with who they kick off or who they prosecute, but Liberty is private property. They can do whatever the heck they want to. I think this is such a non-issue, and I'm really annoyed of seeing people post it everywhere. Like, look, how could Liberty have done this? I'll tell you how they could have done this. It's a private property, and they have no trespassing signs literally everywhere saying that if you come on campus and you're not a student or faculty member, you'll be prosecuted. Like, what do you want them to do? Right? Like, I mean, come on. The final thing I want to say on this is, if for some reason this gets around to Jerry and he's watching this, I want to first say I have a great respect for people in authority. I have a great respect for what he's done for the school. He has done a lot of really positive things for the school, and this school has grown at such an exponential rate and in such a positive way thanks to the actions of Jerry Falwell Jr. So I appreciate all he's done for the school. However, he needs to consider how his words and how his actions reflect on the school. Whether he likes it or not, he right now is the kind of face of the conservative movement in America, the Christian conservative movement in America, and Liberty University. So everything he says and does will be interpreted as a representation for conservatives, Christians, and Liberty students. So he needs to be really careful with what he does and says, and he needs to be, not only that, but be considerate of how they'll be interpreted. So you need to really be prudent and careful with what you say and what you do. So while I agree with the school situation to remain open, I think it's really bad form to publicly go after a journalist who was negatively covering the school. I think it's a very, very bad look to call the parents of students who go here a dummy. And I think it's very profoundly disrespectful and very childish to refer to Dr. Baggett, who wrote the opinion piece on the school's decision, to refer to her as that Baggett lady and say that she must feel pretty silly now. I think that's profoundly immature, profoundly disrespectful, and I think you need to just tone it down a bit. And that's what I'll say. You're doing some good things. Focus on those. Don't cause drama where there doesn't need to be. And that's all I'll say on the Jerry Falwell issue. I'm sorry that went on so long. I didn't want to get into a rant about it, but I think it was important to mention. So, finally, what do I think about Liberty's decision to stay open? I already said that I agreed with it, but I want to go a little more in depth. As I've said in my videos, that despite all the concerns that people have had, Liberty honestly has been taking extremely extensive measures to not only follow all of the government's guidelines, but keep everything sanitary, keep its students safe, its faculty members safe, and the greater Lynchburg area safe as a whole. They've done everything they can to try to keep students isolated on campus and even encourage students to go home. Now, the ways some of the headlines are worded, and even Jerry, when he was on Fox News, he said thousands of students are expected to return. None of that's true. Only around 1,100 students originally came back, but a lot of those have left now. I would wager that there are less than 1,000 students left on campus. Again, as I said in my second video, I think it should be noted that nobody was forced to come back. I think if students get sick, that the school shouldn't be taking all of the blame on that, because we're all adults here. The school can't babysit us 24/7. If I go to Sheets and don't wash my hands when I come back and end up getting coronavirus, I don't think that should be the school's fault, because that could have happened to me back home. That could have happened to me anywhere. In fact, in my case, I live in Northern Virginia, right outside DC. There are millions and millions and millions of people there. So I feel like it would have been more likely for me to get sick had I stayed home. So I think that is a point that should be made. Again, I think it's unfair that the school is being thrown under the bus for stuff that might happen. Because as of right now, nothing's happened. Nothing negative has happened. We've had speculations of a few cases, but as of right now, there's either 0 confirmed COVID cases, or if there are, they are very, very little. I haven't heard anything, and I've been keeping my nose to the ground pretty significantly. If it turns out that there are, this is the number. I'm guessing it's not a lot. So I think it's really unfair to kind of throw the school under the bus for something that hasn't happened yet. I think we should be critical of the school. We should definitely scrutinize the current situation here and keep it monitored, but saying that the school's throwing caution to the wind and putting everybody at risk and everyone's gonna die, it's a little premature for that, and I think it's dumb. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that's a fact. That's just what I think. I think it's dumb. And another thing I want to say is, after talking to all the people I talked to in all the interviews, most of the people I interviewed thought that the school should have closed. Most of them disagree with the university's decision. However, even they themselves said and couldn't deny that the school was taking extensive measures. Whether or not that's enough is yet to be seen. It's all speculation right now. The school has done everything that it can short of shutting down completely. So now it's really up to the students to keep themselves safe and healthy, to take precautions themselves. Because like I said, the school can't personally babysit everybody on campus. So I think it is up to the students to keep themselves safe and healthy. They chose to come back. The school encouraged students to head home and enticed students to head home, but students still came back. That's not to say the school shouldn't hold some responsibility, because the school are the leaders, and it's the leaders' job to take responsibility for their shortcomings and their failures. However, I think it's a valid argument to say that some of the blame should be put on the students. Or not some of the blame, but some of the responsibility. We're all adults, we need to act like it, is basically what I'm saying. And the final thing I want to say is, me personally, I feel safe here. I feel honestly a lot safer here in Lynchburg on campus than I did back home. I feel significantly safer about it. I have no regrets about coming back. As of the recording of this video, I have no plans to go back home before the end of the semester. Right now, my plan is to head home May 2nd. And as of right now, that's what I'm doing. So I'll end with that. I feel very safe here. I have no regrets about coming back. And I think a lot of the criticism has been blown way out of proportion. That's my final thought. Thank you guys so much for watching this series. I really, really appreciate it. I hope it lived up to your expectations, and I hope that even if you disagree with me and disagree with my opinions, you at least got something out of this. That is my hope, that even if we disagree, you still learned something and you still at least got something out of this. Maybe your perspectives have changed. All I've done is I presented you with all the information that I have gathered. I presented you with my interpretation of that information. It's up to you guys to take it how you will. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can hit the big red subscribe button down right below this video. Make sure you hit that notification bell. That way you're notified when I upload my next video. Whatever the heck that's gonna be. It's gonna be super weird to follow up this video. If you're curious, what I have kind of in the works right now is a YouTuber tier list. So, yep, I'm going from serious investigative reporting to ranking your favorite YouTubers. What can I say? We do it all here at Jonah Entertainment. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your pal Jonah signing off and saying see you next time on Jonah Entertainment. Bye everybody.